I think the single dumbest phrase in military history is our diversity is our strength.
First, he said he doesn't want anybody in government to celebrate Black History Month.
They tried to blame a plane crash on diversity.
He tried to use DEI as literally a racial slur against us.
Let's hop into a CNN panel as they discuss the rather distasteful Black History Month event that Trump put on. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This helps us out a ton, and we'll be back with the very much needed context and fact checks.
It just seems a little hypocritical that you would be doing everything in your power to sort of outlaw the teachings of what, say, a Muhammad Ali stood for. Like, are you going to tell people that he stood against war, that he stood against these very progressive civil rights issues? That doesn't seem to be the part of it. And what I noticed there from that clip is that he had to read letter by letter about what these people, what these great Americans have done in terms of progress for our country, because it's not something he's familiar with and not something that is natural for him. So I consider this to be an insult, a slap in the face. And frankly, all the people that attended this, look, I guess God bless you if you've never been to the White House and maybe you looked at it as some kind of great experience. But everything this president has stood for and done in the last decade or so has been a complete rejection of what Black history is.
Yeah, I mean, she's spot on. There's not much else to add. This is a person who has demonized DEI, something that came around in the civil rights era to ensure fair treatment for African Americans in employment and education. Donald Trump turned that into a slur against Black people to pretend that we're getting handouts in this country when we don't get handouts for anything. We have to work twice as hard and be twice as qualified to get half the results. Trump has went on to repeal other civil rights executive orders, once targeted at preventing discrimination based on race, instead saying it's okay as long as it's not DEI. Literally defining discrimination as DEI practices, overturning the original discrimination executive order and saying, hey, this discrimination now is the one that can't happen. This is a man who twice now has appointed historically undiverse cabinets, who has teared down the Black community, especially Black women, at every turn that he can, from racial housing discrimination to racist hiring practices. Then he throws an event like this, has to read the achievements of notable Black figures because he, of course, doesn't know them, further showing his ignorance, before then making the entire event about himself. He's the only speaker and boasting about how he'll run for a third term because that's what the Black History Month event should be about. But at least he invited Tiger Woods, right?
I think the single dumbest phrase in military history is our diversity is our strength.
My son is in a public school. He takes a class called African American History. If you're running an African American history class, could you perhaps be in violation of this court order, of this executive order?
I'm not quite certain, and I'd like to look into it further and get back to you on that.
You can have DEI in water coolers and universities. I disagree with that. But lives aren't impacted with DEI at universities. It is impacted here. I just want the best and the brightest, keeping Americans safe.
Okay, so you say that, and then you throw a Black History Month event, and people are supposed to then say, well, it all doesn't matter. He really does care about the history of this country, which includes people. It's Black History Month today and this month, but it could be Hispanic History Month, Women's History Month, all these diverse people.
I'm tired of pretending, so let's stop doing it. Most MAGA voters are the same ones who say we shouldn't have a Black History Month because there's not a White History Month. These are the most abject racist members of society in most instances, if they're not confused, voting selfishly and don't care about this stuff or whatever else it may be. They literally cheer stuff like this on most of the time. We got ushered into this Black History Month from an administration telling universities they have to stop teaching certain aspects of Black history, that the Air Force has to stop teaching of the Tuskegee Airmen, the first Black pilots in the Army. We have states like Florida telling their schools that they have to teach, if they're going to teach slavery, they have to teach it in the capacity that slavery benefited African Americans. Hell, at Trump's order, federal agencies have stopped celebrating Black History Month. We'll stop celebrating MLK Day, these other ethnic holidays. But we're supposed to believe that this performative bullshit in hopes to keep a few Black voters is genuine without him acknowledging Black successes, acknowledging Black voices or anything. But he did say he'll give Kobe and Muhammad Ali a statue and they're cool, right? Like, Black history is being eroded away day by day at a rate we've never seen before. And a statue of Kobe isn't a consolation prize.
On one end, he knows he's got a huge deficit. He's trying to make cuts and move the business,
No, I'm
this
talking
big
about-
government
I'm
forward.
not talking about the cuts. I'm talking about the denigration of people based on this idea of DEI. They tried to blame a plane crash on diversity.
Yeah, I don't actually agree with that, to be very sincere with you. I think he looks at DEI more of a, let's put that aside and let's do everything on merit. He's made it very clear. He's talked about merit all along. So I really think, Abby, that what happened today was a beautiful thing.
So
Yeah, I
what-
don't.
so
I
what do
think
you-
he's trying to gaslight us.
In
I
what
mean, come
way,
on, man.
Solomon?
You have got to be kidding.
So if he
He's
didn't
try-
have it, if he didn't
No,
have it today, you would be
he's
bashing him.
trying,
Honestly, I
he's
would
trying
prefer
to
that he
gaslight us.
You can't say
First,
that.
he
Yes, I
said
would.
he doesn't want anybody in government to celebrate Black History Month, and then he says, "Okay, I'm going to put on an event about Black History Month, and I'm going to be the speaker." There aren't any Black people, really saying anything about what's happening with him. He tried to use DEI as literally a racial slur against us.
Right. I mean, even if he's just trying to make cuts and this isn't racist, it's telling that the first thing he thinks that should go are Black holidays and diversity protocols. Before the bloated Pentagon budget that fails audit after audit, of course, he's just trying to make cuts and had to start with DEI. But no, it's like the last guy said, it's an attempt to gaslight us after doing racial slurs against us. He, at this event, didn't highlight Black voices. There were no notable Black speakers. We weren't talking about boosting diversity, the successes brought to us by Black people throughout history, how he would continue to tackle racism. It was Trump-centered, with him, a cis white man, as the speaker and main focus, where again, he quickly made it about himself and running for a third term because he also doesn't value the Constitution and wants to be a king, of course. This is an administration that tried to go as far to blame diversity on a plane crash because they couldn't admit their reckless cutting of staff and regulations was at fault. So instead, Black people and diversity should be the fall guy. This is Trump, who called Kamala a DEI hire despite her having objectively more experience than him. MAGA, who said they get scared when they see Black pilots, or that the Civil Rights Act was the worst legislation that's ever been passed and should be repealed. We know what this party is at its core, and support of it is something, to me, is unforgivable as a Black man, even if you are just voting on selfish reasons, or even if you are just one of the dumb ones who are really convinced that this isn't racism and it's merit, despite all the unqualified white people Trump is hiring, but then the Black people, we have to check their merits and make sure they're qualified. It's literally just another way to ensure Black people are trying twice as hard as everyone else. But to me, it's unforgivable because it shows that you would sell me out. You would sell out my equality, essentially, for your own best interests, which it's like telling of your morals. So, distance.